What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be diving into some Simic Poison. I tried my best to make this as budget as possible. This is kind of like the new hot fun deck that I think came out of Phyrexia All Be One. It's really because of this card, Venerated Rotpriest. It's a 1-mana 1/2 with Toxic 1. Whenever a creature we control becomes target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. Doesn't mean just your opponent's spells, also means our spells. So our deck is full of cantrips and spells that kind of protect our creatures from hopefully getting targeted by removal or anything like that. Another card that works very well with this deck is Ivy, Gleeful Spellthief. This is another card that I've done a previous video on. She's this card that whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, we can copy that spell that target and copy targets Ivy. So what this will do is turn all our protection spells from just targeting one creature into targeting that creature plus Ivy, which is definitely very good. And it comes in good combination with a lot of our pump spells and protection spells that we do have in the deck. What we're trying to do here is just trying to overrun our opponent with just a lot of tempo plays and just try to keep the pressure on with that poison counter, just because as much as the deck could win by damage, it also just can easily win quickly as just targeting our creatures with spells and then poison our opponent out. So like I said, this deck is more on the budget side. It does require 8 rares and also 1 Dreamroot Cascade, but if you have the dual starter decks, this should be available to you already in your collection. But it really needs these 2 spells really to get the deck going, and most of the other spells in the deck are just commons and uncommons when it comes to lands and also the instant speed spells that we do have in the deck. The only suggestion I would make that really works, that really could help out the deck a little bit better when it comes to rares and mythics, would probably March of Swollen Mist or March of Burgeoning Life. Both very solid cards. This allows us to target multiple things, so this is definitely a very good thing. If we don't have a Spell Thief, we could tap X for whatever and blue, and we can target multiple spells, targeting like Rotpriest and maybe a couple other things, protecting them, phasing them out. And then we get triggers from the Rotpriest. And March of Budget and Life is another one that allows us to dig deeper into our deck. We can choose a creature with mana value less than X, search our library for a creature card with the same name as that creature and put it on the battlefield tapped and shuffled. So like if we already have a Venerated Rotpriest, we can march it and find another one, which is definitely very good. Overall, very, very solid deck. It's definitely something that you could even make some further tweaks, add some more additional rares, but I do think this is definitely a good place to start if you're looking to play that Simic Poison deck that everyone is playing currently at the moment. With that being said, let's just dive into some games, kind of see how our budget-ish version of this deck performs. Opponent goes first. This is fine. We wouldn't play Rotpriest on turn 1 anyway, so I do think it's fine to be mulliganed. And our opponent's mulliganing hard, so they're going to probably just scoop because they've mulliganed 4 times. 5. Or they're trying to be like, I can win Magic if I go down to like 3 cards in hand. Okay, we're playing a game. I was not expecting us to play actually a game. Our opponent's so confident that they kept a 1-lander and a creature hand below. Or they're purposely they're playing into their name where they are literally a deck that all they try to do is play 1-land hands and go from there. I will play an Ivy and say Rotpriest and say go. And I have ways of protecting, so what do you got for me? Alright, do you have double, Sure. Swing for 2. And yet again, we'll play another Rotpriest, and we'll say go. Our opponent's not in a good spot right now. Sure. I will take the 2 damage. They're up to 5 poison. And we'll play Storm Chaser Drake, and we'll say go. Yep. I'll block. Okay. That's That's a play. Ivy. I feel like you scoop at this opponent. This time opponent. I think it's GG's. Because you doubled. We'll decline that trigger. And we'll just pay 1. And we'll target the creature you're targeting. And that's that many triggers, and we'll take that action. And that's more than enough triggers to poison you out. And GG's. I don't know if I should call that a good victory just because our opponent mulliganed down to 2. Hey, if you're liking the deck, I have it linked down in the description below if you want to check it out. And if you're also liking the video, remember to hit that like button. Definitely helps out the channel. With that being said, let's get back into the next game. On the play, I think hand's okay. Could use some cards. You know, some cards to get more lands. If we can get our land here, not a land, green red. I think we say go. As much as I can play a creature, I feel like it's going to go right into a burn spell, and I don't. Okay, that's good for us. I was not expecting that. They may just immediately tap it, which is fine. I think we just draw the card off the top of our library. That's perfectly fine too. And green mana is even better. So we'll play Storm Chaser Drake. And then next turn we can follow that up with Ivy, as I do think that's probably the better way. Alright, our opponent's playing Oil. Oil's fun. No blocks. Yep. They're at 1 poison, and it's our turn. Rotpriest. Yeah, this is everything. Everything's coming up Millhouse at the moment. So we'll play Ivy, and we'll play Combat Research, and we will take that action. So Ivy also has 1, and we go to combat, and we'll swing for 2, and we'll draw a card. Tempo, tempo, tempo. End turn. Now we have protection, which is good. And we also have 5 attack in the air, which is awesome. Alright, our opponent's literally playing the haystack. Sure. Got a 4-1. Pass to attack. They attack for 3. This is definitely an interesting spot for us. We could take it. We could also play this, gain some life, and then draw a card, which I think is the play. Sure. We'll take that action. We'll copy it. We're going to gain 4 life, so it pretty much negates out what we just did. And then we'll just block the 3-2. Because that absorbs the most damage, because there's still trample. We'll play Rotpriest. And I think we also be aggressive and attack. And we draw 2 cards. And we'll play a land that comes to the battlefield tap, but it also helps us overall with what we're trying to do. Though we don't have any protection, which is kind of a bad thing. Sure. Our opponent on the Oil. Another one. It's fine. Not really worried about what our opponent's doing at the moment, to be quite honest. Not like that's it's kind of a bad thing, because I'm just kind of, nope, we're not going to block. We'll take 10. Because I do think if I get the right set of cards, I could easily blow our opponent. So we'll draw a card, give him a poison. Those are not the cards that I was talking about. We will do that. We will submit. We'll play a Thornwood Falls. I think we play one of these. Yeah, I think we're in a good spot now. They're at 3. If I play this and play a Tyvar stand, that's 2 copies. That's... No, I don't think we're good now. We'll hold back and we'll say go. Sure. Doesn't have whatchamacallit. Yep. Got a lot of stuff happening here. Alright, so these have trample. This has trample. They have no cards in hand, so everything's on the table. So I think first we do is we start with this. We'll pay 0. We'll confirm 0. And we will target here. We'll take that action. So our opponent gets 2 poison. And then they have priority back because they have their thing, and then we'll play this and we'll target here. And we'll take that action because that will gain us 4 life. Alright. So we block one of these. We block this. And we block this. That's 6 through and 2, 4 through? I think that's good. We're still alive. We're at 5. And we're at 4 poison now. And they get some counters. It's fine. They can't target any. Okay, they're just going to play their hand out. Sure. I guess we go to combat, and we'll swing in for 5 in the air, draw some cards. See if we can get a better way to win. I think this is better. We'll play another Rotpriest. And then we'll say keep in. I just fudged up. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Our opponent saw the writing on the wall. Opponent goes first. Hand is a 1-lander. A lot of good cards if we just draw that extra land, but it's a bad if we don't draw that land. We do play, I think, 22, which is kind of like a flip of a coin if we're gonna get it. So I do think we take the mulligan, even though it was a. All right, this one's definitely not bad. I think Augury is the one that's got to go. As much as it's a card that's gonna dig us deeper, I do think it's the better. It's the worst of the cards in our hand. And it looks like our opponent's also on that Simic Rotpriest style deck. Maybe. It's possible they're just playing mono green with Rotpriest. Nope, they're definitely on that. Yeah, and they already have their engine online, so definitely doesn't spell good for us. So if they have their stuff, we are definitely not in a good spot. The question is, do we have more of that stuff we need in order to take advantage of it? Sure. The 2 doesn't matter in the air. We will play this. We will play our own Ivy. If only the legend rule was still a thing. All right, we're both off to the races. They're at more poison than we are. Yeah, that's what I assume. I also don't want to blink and let them kind of take advantage. Will this work? This is going to be one of those games where I think it's going to go off, and it's going to be dumb. I mean, I'm not trying to target their things, but the game, it's just because we both have Ivies. So, I mean, technically we're tied now, so there is that. No attacks. End turn. Oh my god, this is too dumb. Sweet. Alright, well, if we can get this augury to go off, maybe that's the way we get this to work? Because that will get us somewhat ahead. I would say they don't have any removal, so it's just a matter of who's going to beat who in the race. Sure. That's one of their card engines. We'll augury. If they play one of their spells, they play one of their spells, but we'll proliferate, which I think is something we want to do. And this will help us kind of maybe find something, somehow figure out how to resolve stuff on this battlefield. Or we find a second Rotpriest, which is probably good. I'll take another augury, actually. I like that. We'll submit one on them. So now we're tied, officially. All right, we're going to say go. Definitely in a predicament. I think whoever misses the priority here from going forward is going to fall behind. And I think that's kind of how this will work out. Or if there's some way that one of us can get rid of a Rotpriest at the wrong time. I'll take 2. It doesn't have poison. I mean, they could have a combat trick to give me a poison. We'll take that action, I guess. We'll pump my creature and give them a poison. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I'm not sure how I feel about the card that they're playing. Sure, we're at 5. They're at 5 as well. We're at 6. We're at 7, maybe? I will augury again. I feel like a land will help more than those 2 cards. And we'll submit 1 poison on them. It's definitely a dumb matchup overall. I think I pass to their turn and make them move. Because I'm trying to think of how this is going to work, because I could, in theory, tap out. But I can't. That's fine. They can draw. Definitely a predicament. They are behind that. They did get that one poison, which has kind of been the reason why they're ahead. Pass to attackers. I mean, I'll block. Might as well make something happen if that's what they want to do. Sure. I will also, I guess, get pumped. Resolve. I'll take that action as well. Gain some life, get indestructible. Resolve. We get another poison. Get another poison. They double cast too. It's definitely an overall just weird matchup, just in general. Because the way this is all going to work out is even if I do stuff, like if I Tamiyo here, they're going to be able to copy, they're going to get a poison. Like, it's literally just a poison off at that point. And then they're going to get a possible trigger copy of this. I actually win, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Because I'm going to be able to resolve whatever spell they're going to. Sure. I should be able to get a priority hold on this trigger. And be able to, in theory... resolve my spell before they resolve their spell. Resolve. Take that action as well, which then triggers our Rotpriest, and we win. So that is one of those matchups where the stack gets really confusing because things are just being copied and copied and copied. And we have the benefit on our opponent's turn. So personally, if I was my opponent, I would wait until my turn to do all this because they get priority in a way for their stuff to resolve first before our stuff resolves on our turn, and vice versa. So since it was their turn, I was able to resolve my stuff on the stack first before their stuff resolves. So it's like sandwiched down below the stack. And because they're targeting their stuff to pump, their stuff is as much as it's on the stack. They target their creature. This goes on the stack. Then they copy with the Ivy. Then I also get my copy with Ivy. But my Ivy would resolve first. And since they were already at 9, we would technically win in that sense because our poison trigger from the Venerated Rotpriest then triggers. The other thing too is I actually think if I cast stuff on their end, if I in response, let's just say I slip out the back, I actually think they would trigger their Rotpriest first. Therefore, we would lose. So them actually adding an extra buff onto their creature, I think prevented them from winning. I don't know. The stack is very confusing because the stack is literally consistent right now of Ivy triggers. We have triggers on Tamiyo Safekeeping into an Ivy trigger, into a Tamiyo Safekeeping trigger, I think for them to gain some life, into another Ivy trigger, into a Shore Up, into a copy of Shore Up targeting my creature, then a Tamiyo Safekeeping. It's definitely very confusing, but because our opponent tried to do it all on their turn, is I think the reason why they lost in that point. They should have just let the stuff resolved and made me respond first, and I do think they would have won if they would have done that. Like, they would have played their pump spell, and then I would have been like, well, okay, I'm going to try to do something here, or wait till my turn, because no one was dying by life. We were only dying by poison. So definitely very confusing, and this is definitely one of those matchups where knowing how the stack works is definitely very important, especially when you're in a mirror matchup. If you're liking the content on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps out a lot. Also, if you want to go the extra mile, you can simply click the join button. You can join the channel and become a member for as little as $1. That will also help support the channel. Now back to the next game. And we are back. So, I mean, overall, the Simic Poison deck is definitely one of those interesting combo-y kind of decks. And I do think it's one of those, also a deck that you need to kind of understand how the stack works, as we saw in the last game where we had a very complicated stack where me and my opponent were playing literally the same deck. We both had Ivies, we both had Rotpriests, and kind of understanding how spells resolved was kind of like the key on why we won the game in the end instead of our opponent. But definitely a fun deck to try out. If you're someone who wants to try the poison thing and want to kind of trigger a bunch of poison counters all at once, this is definitely the deck to play. I do think the Dimir deck is more of the control matchup. This is more of the combo-y matchup, I would say, compared to the two decks. The other thing I would also note, just in case you do decide to play it, is never play any of your cards into non-open mana. So, like, for example, don't play like a Rotpriest on turn 1 if depending on when you don't know what your opponent's playing, because you play it on turn 1, it easily dies to a shock or some sort of like bolt type damage or even removal, as it can't get cut down. So I do think you want to play your Ivy and want to play your Rotpriest into open where you have open mana afterwards, so that you can play one of your spells to protect the creature just in case, whether it's having to slip it out the back, bounce it back to your hand, whatnot. That's definitely, I think, one of the key points to just kind of make sure that you kind of keep having that momentum, because the minute you tap out and your opponent still has ways to answer things, that's kind of going to be where you're going to fall behind overall when it comes to the deck in general. But with that being said, it definitely is a fun deck. I do see why it does seem kind of broken when the Rotpriest and Ivy combo kind of goes off, that it feels almost like it's too good to be legal in Standard, but it's definitely a deck that can't be beat. We did lose a few games as I was playing it, but we definitely won more than we lost due to poison, and it's overall just a fun deck. But if you like the deck, I'll have the link down in the description below if you want to check it out for yourself. If you're new here, you want to know when I post new videos like this one here on the channel, hit that subscribe button. With that being said, and we are back. So, I mean, overall the games went fairly well with the Simic Poison deck. I do see why it's kind of a really popular deck. I do think the two poison decks that exist is this one and the Dimir one. I would say this is the more fun one to play if you're looking for ways this deck kind of pops off and just kind of gives your opponent a bunch of poison all at once. This deck definitely does do it. I would say it's probably fair. It does feel broken in best of one, but I do think it's beatable in general, especially if you don't get the right cards to kind of make it go. But overall, it's a fun deck. It's definitely something if you want to check out. I'll have a link down in the description below if you want to see the deck list and import it yourself and see what cards you're missing or what cards you have for it. But if you like the video, hit that like button. Definitely helps out a lot. If you're new here, you want to post new videos like this one here on the channel, hit that subscribe button. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.